Time to re-up YouTube. I'm back with another episode of the season preview, and as you can see, we are finally in the top 10, and to start us off, we have the Miami Heat. Now, I know a lot of Heat fans are gonna be like, yo, Mustard's just hating on our team for no reason every time I criticize him. Well, you keep feeling that way because I ain't gonna stop, bruh. I'm gonna keep it real no matter what. I had the Bulls outside of the top 15, and that pained my soul, but I gotta keep my content authentic. And besides, if you're a Heat fan, you can't be mad at this placement. You're inside the top 10 to start us off at number 10. You're the 10th best team in the league in my personal opinion, or at least in the regular season you will be, because I gotta say the Heat are one of the best regular season teams in the NBA. From the coaching perspective, Eric Spoelstra, arguably the best coach in the NBA, great defensive schemes, can utilize zone better than any coach in the NBA. He's consistently getting the most out of every single player on the court, and I gotta say he deserves a massive thumbs up for his work over the course of his career, not just over this Jimmy Butler era. But let's look at some of the players on this roster, and let's start off with some of the reserve guys. I have to say, when you look at their bench, it's really filled with players that were kind of like diamonds in the rough to an extent. Players that were either undrafted, low draft picks, free agents that nobody wanted, and they just fit well with that Heat grit and grind culture. Max Strus played really well for them last year on the defensive end, giving them some flexibility and offensively spacing the floor. With the best year of his career, obviously in the middle of his 20s, he has a couple of more productive years left. He averaged around 11 points on 41% shooting from 3 on nearly 7 attempts, and a true shooting percentage of over 60%. Gabe Vincent as well last year, a solid defender on the perimeter and a good 3-point shooter, shooting 37% on 5 attempts last season. I'll always love my guy Gabe Vincent, you know, he's a Nigerian. Shout out to that man for real. Caleb Martin is also a really good defender on the perimeter, a solid shooter, even though it's not on too much volume. He still is capable of knocking down perimeter shots here and there, but I think his biggest contributions are his defense on the perimeter. They also have Victor Oladipo coming back to the team, and last year defensively he was really good, especially in the playoffs. I mean, this guy was giving hell to Jason Tatum and especially Jaylen Brown in that Eastern Conference Finals. Now, I know offensively Oladipo is not the player he used to be in Indiana. Hell, he's not even the player that he was in Houston, but it's not going to be too much to ask him to give you around 10 to 15 points a night with amazing defense that he already showed the capability of playing last season in a role coming off the bench. The only problem that I think Victor Oladipo is going to have with this team is staying healthy. That's been an issue essentially throughout his entire career, and they're really going to need his defense on the perimeter, especially considering that another one of their guards, Kyle Lowry, he's pretty injury prone himself. Lowry's a good player, don't get me wrong, but considering that this man is making north of $25 million this upcoming season and another $30 million the next year, I would say that's a crazy overpay for a player that's not even top 15 at his own position and is not guaranteed to play 60 games a year. Lowry last regular season was fairly healthy for his standards, playing 63 games, but in the playoffs he was riddled with injuries throughout the entire time. And it's crazy because when I made my video about the Miami Heat not being real contenders, I brought up Kyle Lowry's health, and so many Heat fans were killing me in the comment section, but come playoff time, all I heard was, oh my god, we're injured. Kyle Lowry is dealing with this injury throughout the whole playoffs. What do you expect us to do? Well, I'm not expecting nothing because I knew Kyle Lowry was going to get injured in the first place. But while we're on the subject of some of the bigger names on this roster, let's talk about Duncan Robinson for a second. Duncan Robinson is a good shooter. Hell, he's a great shooter. He's inconsistent, but he's still one of the better shooters in the league. Unfortunately though, this guy cannot play a lick of time in the playoffs because he's one of the worst defenders in the league. He couldn't even guard his own shadow, and I'm not joking when I say that. He's so bad defensively that he goes from around 26 minutes a night in the regular season last year to around 12 minutes a night in only 13 games played in the playoffs last year. As for when he was on the court in the postseason, he had a 112 defensive rating. When he was off the court, a 106.9 defensive rating. And hey, you could say the minutes don't match up enough to even make that comparison, but there's a reason for that. It's because his defense is just that sorry. He can't move his feet on the perimeter. He is a walking blow-by. It is a layup line for this guy. Somebody has to help over every single time. Anytime someone takes him off off the dribble, because when he is on the court, I don't care who has the ball. We're going to that guy. And the only way he can offset that as a player is if he's going crazy from three, which he has the capability to do so, but unfortunately he can only do it so many times. He's not some great shot creator, he's an off-ball shooter. And though he does have his gravity, I'm not gonna say he can't draw attention, doubles on the perimeter, I'm not saying any of that. Hell, him running off of screens was a big reason why Jimmy Butler got to the finals a couple of years ago. But unfortunately, that shit can only take you so far, and it took him far enough to get a $90 million contract, but it's not gonna take him far enough to actually be a good player come playoff time. And it's so crazy to me how a guy that's gonna get DMPs for most of the playoffs throughout the rest of his career is gonna be making $16.9 million this year, $18.1 million the next year, $19.4 million in 2025, and $19.8 million in 2026. Duncan, I gotta say, I've seen a lot of finesse jobs, but for you to be making that much money each year just so you can do nothing in the playoffs and make a bunch of threes while fucking Miami strippers, it's one of the greatest finesse jobs in the world, and I salute you. Congrats, my brother. But that then finally brings me to the big three in Miami, or the supposed big three of Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, and Tyler Herro. Let's start off with the last of the three, Tyler Herro, the white chocolate swag bag brother himself. Now, I ain't gonna lie, I like Tyler Herro as a player. I don't think he's a bad player. He's one of the better shooters in the league, especially at his position, a nice pick and roll player as well, can create for himself a little bit in the mid-range, and he's also a really good off-ball player. The man is a great fit alongside Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, who are non-floor spacers themselves. And last year, he had the best year of his career. He averaged 21, 4, and 5 on 45, 39, and 86 shooting splits. And considering that he did most of his damage coming with the second unit, he was awarded the 6th Man of the Year award. Well deserved. Shout out to Tyler Herro for that. But unfortunately, just like a lot of other 6 men like Jamal Crawford and Lou Williams, he is damn near unplayable in the playoffs. The man is one of the worst defenders in the NBA. Similar to Duncan Robinson, if he's not clicking offensively, there's just no point of playing him. Now, I know some people are going to be saying he was injured in the playoffs this past year, and I can give him somewhat of a pass on that. But defensively, he's still trash, whether he's 1,000% healthy or 40% healthy. And he has already proven on multiple occasions that he is not a great shot creator against real defenses. He can't score without a bunch of screens. He's not an elite shot creator. If you just watch him, you can tell that for yourself. He's never even shown the potential to do so outside of the bubble. And I'm not trying to make this a bubble conversation, trust me, that's not my point here, but he's just not that guy. And the fact that they're considering him to be the second shot creator alongside Jimmy, and they have championship aspirations in an ever-growing Eastern Conference, I just don't see that shit working out very well for them. Herro has literally had one postseason where he's been productive. Outside of that, he was trash against the Bucks when they got swept, and he was trash last year. And the fact that they gave him a $130 million extension over a 4-year period is nasty work, I'm not gonna lie. During that extension, this guy's gonna be making the same amount of money as guys like Jason Tatum and Bam Adebayo, and more than guys like DeAndre Ayton and Jaylen Brown. Of course, situations play a factor into how those guys got paid, but the fact that he's even in that stratosphere is insane to me. The Heat's salary cap issues are a big reason why I don't look at them as real contenders in this Eastern Conference, and them giving out $220 million combined to Tyler Herro and Duncan Robinson's contract extensions are a big reason why. Now, I will say about their other big contract man that's young, Bam Adebayo, he's him, at least on defense, that is. Bam has been one of the better defenders in the NBA essentially since he's come into the league. He has the ability to legit guard 1 through 5, he can move his feet on the perimeter, he can defend the paint, he's a good help side defender, good in the pick and roll. I mean, there really is nothing that Bam can't do defensively at a high to elite level, and I would be stunned if he doesn't end up winning a Defensive Player of the Year award within the next 2 to 3 seasons. Now, offensively, that's where it gets a little bit shaky for Bam. Bam is not a bad offensive player. He's a good screener, can roll to the basket, effective in the pick and roll, a nice passer as well, can handle the ball a little bit, and that mid-range jumper, it's gotten better even though we all know it's pretty fake. Unfortunately, though, shot creation is a big issue on this Heat team, especially come playoff time, and Bam Adebayo gets his fair share of blame in that. You may think it's unfair to expect expect something out of a player that just may not have the capabilities of it, but considering that this team did give him the money that they gave him, and a lot of people did put those expectations on him, especially after the bubble, Bam has come up short as an offensive player come postseason time against real defenses. I don't think he's a bad offensive player come postseason time, but it's very clear that he struggles with doing so much defensively with their lack of size, while having to contribute offensively, especially in the role of shot creation. I mean, we saw it last year in the playoffs. Whenever he faced real bigs like a Clint Capella or a Joel Embiid, he struggled to be consistent as a scoring option offensively because he had so much on his plate defensively to make up for their lack of size on the interior. I used to be a part of the people heavily critical of Bam, and I still am critical of him to an extent, but now I kind of understand his situation a lot more. And though the term scam Adebayo is pretty funny and I'll keep using it, I think a lot of people should adjust their expectations for Bam. But I'm expecting big things for my man's career on the defensive end, not only because he's capable, but he's also Nigerian too. I gotta represent my brothers. But speaking of brothers, that brings me to the top dog on this team, Jimmy G Buckets himself. As a Bulls fan, you always have to have some love for Jimmy Butler. He helped ease the pain of Derrick Rose tearing his ACL for a couple of years before he left, and since then he's gone on to have a Hall of Fame career run. But in Miami, to be specific, he's had some of the greatest playoff runs of all time, which include last year as he averaged 27, 7, and 5 along with 2 steals a game on over 50% shooting from the field with a true shooting percentage of 59%. Jimmy truly was the definition of clutch. And sure, I definitely understand the argument against Atlanta and Philly, but them being shorthanded, especially in the Philly series with Joel Embiid, but you gotta give credit where it's due, and Jimmy Butler was dropping 40 pieces in both of those series. And against Boston, he was dominant. He had a 41-point game to start off the series in game 1, and despite him getting hurt in games 3 and 4 and playing like straight up garbage in game 5, in game 6 facing elimination, he had one of the all-time great playoff performances of 47 points, 8 assists, and 9 rebounds along with 4 steals and a block, shooting 55% from the field, 50% from 3, and knocking down all 11 of his free throws. The man was truly on a mission in Boston to shut down that entire city to take game 7 back to Miami. Jimmy truly is one of the greatest playoff performers that we have in the league today. He steps up in the big moments, whether it's hitting jump shots that are out of his character because he's not a great jump shooter, or giving even more effort defensively, being one of the best defensive wings of his generation. Jimmy finds a way to get the job done. As a player, he's truly evolved from being just a bench defensive guy to now being one of the most versatile wings in the league offensively, and he doesn't even have a consistent jump shot. If you want Jimmy to playmake for your offense and set it up, he can do that. He's one of the better playmakers at his position and a really underrated passer. If you want him to play off ball, he can do that. He's a great cutter and slasher, and he can also catch lobs. And if it's the playoffs and you just want to give him the ball to take over at the end of the game, he can do that as well. He showed that last season. Jimmy cemented himself as a star caliber player, itching on superstardom in the NBA. I don't think he's a superstar because my list is pretty short, but if you believe so, I'm never going to argue that because I think at bare minimum he's a top 10 player in the league. So when I look at this Miami Heat team, they definitely have some depth. They definitely have some players as well around Jimmy and Bam that can complement their weaknesses. And overall, I still think they're going to be one of the better teams in the Eastern Conference. Hell, like I said, I have them in the top 10. But unfortunately, come playoff time, the key flaws that any team could have, whether you're 1 or you're 30, they can be exploited by anybody if you face the wrong matchup. And then an Eastern Conference with players like Giannis, Jared Allen, and Evan Mobley in the front court as well in Cleveland, you have Joel Embiid. Banking on Bam Adebayo to be your sole man in the paint, and your backup big is who? Dwayne Dedmon? It's very hard for me to pick y'all to come out of the Eastern Conference, especially when in addition to those problems, they lack shot creation outside of Jimmy Butler. Tyler Herro is just not moving me, I'm sorry. Then throw in the health concern with a guy like Kyle Lowry who isn't getting any younger, and it's really going to be the exact same scenario. Bam Adebayo is going to do his best defensively to make up for their lack of size, and offensively he's going to be very inconsistent. Duncan Robinson can't play for obvious reasons. Tyler Herro is also going to look pretty unplayable because he's not a good defender at all, and Jimmy Butler is going to have to once again put on that Superman cape. And unfortunately, that's just not a formula that's going to win championships or even get out of the Eastern Conference in my opinion. And it's crazy to me because I thought the idea was to get a second guy aside from Jimmy Butler, whether it was a Bradley Beal or a Donovan Mitchell, but at this point, is that even possible? Obviously with D Mitch, that plan is out the window. Now he's in Cleveland. But in the case of Bradley Beal, I'm not gonna lie, if I'm the Wizards, I want Bam Adebayo. I'm not about about to trade my franchise guy just so I can get Tyler Herro and a bunch of picks. That's not gonna move me. So Pat Riley, unless you got another trick up your sleeve, and hey, maybe it's Nikola Jovic, who knows? It looks like y'all are stuck in a pretty tough predicament of just being a nice playoff team, and that's about it. But hey, that's just my opinion. Heat fans, let me know why you think I'm wrong in the comment section. Don't forget to also like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Press that bell for post notifications to stay up to date with the latest content on Young Mustard. Follow me on social media. Those links are down below. You guys stay safe and have a blessed day. Peace.